Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club, and it's time once again for a postcard of the week. Please like us on Facebook and on YouTube. Both of those places would help, and we would appreciate it. The postcard of, or actually, we have two postcards this week that I want to show you, and they're modern cards. And by that I mean they're a little bit larger than what the cards were that your grandparents or parents even had that they were mailing back and forth. But these are what they call a continental sized postcard, and they first started showing up from Europe and then made their way to the United States, and that it's the kind of postcard that you might find on a rack currently. But size is always interesting, and these are a little bit larger, so the images are a little bit greater, and they show more detail, and the color printing is better and better all the time. This first postcard shows the church in Rancho de Taos, New Mexico, just south of Taos, New Mexico, on the way to Santa Fe, which is all south of Taos. But in any case, this is the very famous Rancho's Church, and it was called the Church of St. Francis of Assisi. It was built between 1732 and 1772, indicating that it took at least 40 years. Now, this is built with adobe, which is mud bricks basically, and stacked up on top of each other. And you can see all of the details of the architectural details here, looking at the front of the church or the entryway to the church. And it's fun to collect a topic, whether it's the downtown public library or this church, and get a number of cards taken over time and look at all of the differences that have happened in architecture or the designing of say flowers or landscaping around the church. I have some of the early ones I'll have to show you sometime, which show this almost as a ruin. But thank goodness it was saved, and it's in these years it is actually replastered, usually in the fall, before school starts or late summer, we'll say. And men, women, and children who are parishioners here at this church will show up on a given week and work like 60. They'll be mixing mud, which means adobe, and they'll be making new adobes for repairs. And they will spread this mud, standing on ladders and so forth, all over the surface of this church and give it a uh, soft plaster covering. And you'll see if you go up close and look at the sides of the church, the plaster itself, you'll see straw in there, and it's just an interesting way of doing and preserving. That's the soft plaster. If they use a hard plaster, like a plaster of Paris or something like that, then that's called hard plastering. And the hard plaster works fine, but old water is one of the big problems in adobe architecture. Getting inside the hard plaster surface and the adobe bricks inside. When something's made of mud like this, it can almost over time literally melt away. But I won't go into all of those problems. What we want to look here is this postcard. It's a great view of the entryway of the church and showing all these beautiful flowers. The other card I want to show is a kind of a postcard probably made about this time of the year in the winter, And this one was copyrighted in 1983. And the artist, and by that I mean the photographer, was a Frenchman named Bernard Plossu. We were living in Taos and going back and forth after we had moved back to Wichita. We would go back and forth for different events and celebrations within our family. And so we were aware of the different artists, and we had friends there and would get to become introduced, and we got to know uh, to some extent this French photographer, and he lived there for a year or so in the Taos area. But this is an unusual postcard. It's the only one I've ever seen that shows a snow scene or a snowing at the Rancho's church. And here we are at the reverse side or the back side of this church. And both the front and the back sides have been photographed and painted and prints made of, and just on and on, all kinds of different artisans, whether they're making jewelry or fine art. They have copied this. They have made their own rendition of what the Rancho's church looks like, and it's very famous. You think of Georgia O'Keeffe, you think of Ansel Adams, you think of Edward Weston, all kinds of photographers and artisans have made the Rancho's church one of their interest areas and have recorded it in different media. But this is a winter scene about like now, and who knows? It may be snowing there today or tomorrow, but it's the way it looks, and it's something to see. And I encourage you the next time you're in the area to take some time, make some time, and step inside the church. It's open most of the time, and you can walk down the aisle and see all of the santos and the stations of the cross and so forth. It's a great historical church and deserves your attention. Well, that's part of the fun of collecting postcards, is documenting these great massive pieces of architecture or street scenes or automobiles, transportation. That's what we collect, and that's what we look for on postcards. And the more unusual, the more different, the more we like them. Well, that's the story from Taos, New Mexico this week. And we thank you for being here, and look forward to seeing you next week for a Postcard of the Week. Thanks.